What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? So we've got another top 5 video. We covered junglers. Now I wanted to cover mid lanes. We saw some item changes to flat pen items. They're cheaper now, a lot cheaper now. So that might change builds eventually, but because SPL isn't going on right this second, they just had a tournament, they're in a lull. We haven't really seen builds get tested to a point at that highest level where they're getting changed. So the standard mage builds kind of just the same across the board right now, which is common, but there's almost always a little bit of disparity between builds. I'm not seeing that. It's not super common right now. So just keep that in mind when we are, talking about builds and talking about how the game should be played. Mage build. Halo, what are you doing back there? You guys see Halo? Halo. Hey. I don't know what he's doing. So yeah, mage build should be pretty similar across the board with, slight changes god to god, and I just want to talk about it, talk to you guys about what you should be playing, make sure you're on the right track for winning that mid lane and controlling that mid lane and doing what you need to do, and having really strong consistent game. First up on our list, or number 5 on our list, is what I would consider one of the most underrated mages in Smite, and that's Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui hard bullies because of the sustain and because of the tankiness from his passive. He is absolutely nuts because of how tanky he is, and that's just something you got to keep in mind. He's one of those mages that has like options between builds. You can go into a Vam Shroud start. This is going to make your clear a little bit slower, but make you a little bit tankier. Or you can just go the standard Sands of Time build, so you can spam your abilities and get your damage off. This is probably what you should be looking at going. At least in my opinion, that's what you should be going. Next up, you can decide to go into a sustain lifesteal build, which I really, really like and think is very strong. Or you can go the standard mage build, which is going to be going into, not that item, the Warlock Staff. Warlock Staff is something you want to build early and get the stacks online. So you can go right into that Warlock Staff, and then you can go for raw power and pen and CDR and the other stats that you're looking for, or you could look for the lifesteal. You can go for it afterwards, which I really enjoy going the Bancrofts. And what you're going to do is you're going to upgrade that Bancrofts into the Bancroft's Claw, which is going to give you a shield. At this point, you're very tanky because you're passive. You have lifesteal sustained, you have a shield, and then you have the extra health and pen and power and everything from Warlock Staff, and you're good to go. Plus you have CDR of your starter. So you're kind of clutching up with stats at this point. It's a little ridiculous that you can get this many stats this quickly, this early. If you need anti-heal, I wouldn't go Bancross. I would go Divine Ruin in the slot pretty much every single time. Then next up, I'm going to go into that Staff of Mirrodin because it's going to give you power, it's going to give you pen, it's going to give you CDR, it's going to give you extra cooldown on the rest of your abilities. And then you're going to look at going into the Soul Reaver, so you have extra burst, and then you're going to go into the Ob Shard as your last item. Remember, like I said, this item is kind of a filler slot. It can be Divine Ruin. You could just drop that item altogether and go into a Soul Gem and have extra burst and CDR. But in reality, because of the way Zhong works and because of the sustained consistent damage, I think getting lifesteal at this point in the game will keep you alive longer. It'll allow you to take a little bit of poke and trade poke out in your favor and just go a really long way. And then the reason Zhong Kui is so good, people don't know this. I don't know why they don't know this, but they don't know this. So pretty much anytime you open a fight with Zhong Kui, a lot of the time you'll ult and then 1, or you'll 1 and then ult, right? But that's besides the point. Your 2 and your 3 do more based on your 1 being on the target. Late game, Zhong Kui can 1 a squishy, like an assassin, a mage, a hunter, whoever, and then 3. So you throw your 1 on somebody, and then 3 instantly, it will one-shot. The amount of power you have, and because of the way the abilities interact, because you get the extra burst damage that takes away from that 1. So basically removes the 1 off the target. It stuns them for an extended period of time, 2 seconds at max rank, and then it does extra burst damage. You will one-shot those targets, and they won't be able to react. They won't be able to beads live it. They won't Aegis it. They won't be ready for it. They'll just insta-die. So that is why Zhong Kui, to me, is just too big of a threat. You have mass AoE damage as well as that insta-kill potential that people aren't ready for. So Zhong Kui is going to be my number 5. Number 4 on the list is going to be Scylla. I think Scylla is still just insanely good at all stages of the game. You have very strong, very consistent clear that is easy, very easy for you to play around. Very just pure, raw, consistent damage, consistent mobility because you have the CC immunity in the ult, you have the long dash range, you can stay safe in your lane while clearing because you clear so quickly, and then just run back to your tower line with the dash. You're always safe. Build wise, gonna come out pretty much the exact same. You can go Sands of Time. If you are worried about losing early clear, you can go Conduit Gem. I love Conduit Gem start because it guarantees you have clear potential, but you don't need it. You go Sands of Time, then you can go right into that Warlock staff that we were talking about earlier, if I could find it. And then from here is where most of the mage builds kind of stay the same. You go to that Staff of Mirrodin. If you're opening a fight with the ultimate on Scylla, this staff becomes insanely strong to get off multiple uses of your 2 and your 1, and pretty much will guarantee you win the fight. So a lot of the time when you build this item, your ability usage changes. So traditionally on Scylla, you would kind of throw your 1 and your 2 and play slow and then ult somebody to get the reset. A lot of the time after that, once you have staff now, like in this new version, you can open a fight with that ultimate onto whoever your team has jumped on to try to get that secure kill. And if you don't get it, you're still going to come out of the ultimate with a lot more damage to throw around. So the next item you would go here is going to be the Divine Ruin if you need anti-heal. If you do not need anti-heal, this item is going to be your Soul Gem. Then you're going to go into your Soul Reaver, and then you're going to go into your Ob Shard. And that's going to be your full build. This is going to be a very consistent build in the mage role. Like most mages are going to be building this over and over and over again. And that's just how it's going to be. You just like, because of how strong mages are with these items, because you're able to, you upgrade the Sands of Time. By the way, I didn't talk about this a second ago. Upgrade the Sands of Time into a Pendulum of the Ages. You're getting 20% CDR with this item, 30% off of staff. And if you want early, you want to make sure you have cap without buying a red pot. You have that Soul Gem that's going to give you cap. Or if this is Divine Ruin, then the red pot's going to give you cap. Like you're kind of chilling no matter what on CDR. You have really high amounts of power with this build. You have the pen you need because you're getting 20% pen just off of these 2 items. And then you're capping out that 40% pen with the Ob Shard. The only thing you're really foregoing is flat pen, which isn't that big of a deal, to be completely honest. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't matter too much, and you kind of just get to make the most of it overall. So that's number 4 on our list, Scylla. Number 3 on our list is Thoth. Thoth just got a slight buff, plus we saw items get changed. Now I'm kind of looking into like the future a little bit. Thoth in ranked and casuals has already been stomping for a long time. People struggle at playing Thoth correctly, but those who are playing Thoth correctly just bully everybody. It's not common. It's kind of like Janus, where people just don't play the god correctly. But Thoth has a lot of potential now with the buffs and with the item changes. So we talked about that mage build that's kind of over consistent. You're going CDR starter. You're going into the Warlock staff. You can still run that on Thoth and still be in a, like, just kind of clobbering everybody. So Sands of Time start right into that Warlocks, or the Warlock staff to get the power and the pen online. And then you can kind of play from there. You can go into the staff if you're going to plan on opening fights with the staff proc, but you don't really need it. That staff proc isn't as insane on Thoth because Thoth gets to play around the passive of having flat pen, and because Thoth already has such short cooldown based on the passive from the 1. So if you're hitting your 1 on a god, the cooldown is getting reduced by a lot. So you don't really have to go that Staff of Mirrodin. It's 100% up to you if you want to go for it or not, but it's not necessary. So what you could look at doing is going into the Spear of the Magus. At this point, you're not having insane CDR, but you are in a really good place because they lowered the cost of Spear of the Magus. You're getting even more flat pen to pair with your passive, and you're getting a lot more damage because you're doing consistent damage. One of those gods that does consistent damage. Then you can look at going that Soul Gem. Then you can look at going into the Soul Reaver. You're going to have just massive burst at this point. And then you can go into the Obsidian Shard. So this is going to give you 30% pen. You're going to upgrade the Sands of Time. It's going to give you 30% CDR. It's going to have a lot of flat pen and a lot of very consistent damage. And you're just going to be hitting very hard as soon as you finish these 2 items. And then once the Soul Gem comes online, that CDR starts to kick in a little bit, and you're just rolling out damage all the time. If you want, you can still, like I said, you don't have to go for more flat pen and pair it. The god still plays great with that Staff of Mirrodin, and just go the traditional build that all the mages are building right now. It's a cheap item with really good stats, and you are still gaining out of it. You just don't get as much out of it because of Thoth's passive. So Thoth is going to be number 3 on that list. And we talked about it before. I was saying Thoth bullies. Thoth has the longest ranged clear and poke. So pretty much every god in the game, every mage, you can just sit back and poke without being threatened at all. And then anytime you want to get aggressive, you have that dash route, as well as that ultimate that mid to late game is going to hit for half health to full health on somebody and go be a one-shot. You just have to get very comfortable playing the god and poking as much as possible. So Thoth is number 3 on our list. Number 2 on our list, in my opinion, shouldn't be surprising at all. Baba Yaga has seen a massive influx of play and consistency ever since they buffed her. Plus we're in a stacking meta, so she kind of is just cracked in this stacking meta. So you're gonna go into that Sands of Time, which is gonna build on the Pendulum of the Ages. You're gonna stack because your passive builds the stacks for you. You are the fastest stacking god in the game. This is the only god in the game that should really be double stacking ever, like ever in my opinion. So you got that Warlock staff. We got the CDR. We're going to go into Thoth because it's going to give us an insane amount of power, and it's going to stack very quickly because of our passive. Then we're going to go for that penetration and the other items that are traditional to these mage builds right now. The Staff of Mirrodin. We're going to go into that Soul Reaver, and we're going to go into that Ob Shard. Now, with the double stacking, you are getting the power, but you're losing out on Divine Ruin. You are losing out on Soul Gem. So you're not having as much CDR, but you'll be hitting so hard with these items that you don't care about the CDR. You'll get 30% late game, and that's all that matters. If you need anti-heal, you can drop the Book of Thoth for Divine Ruin. You pretty much have to if you really need anti-heal. So please process that information. If they have a lot of healing, or they have sustain, or the person in your lane is healing, or healing is just it's hurting your team, just build Divine. Don't build the Book of Thoth. It's okay to lose a little bit of power for that item. Plus, you'll just finish the build earlier because it's 300 gold cheaper. So, Baba Yaga. And why is Baba Yaga so good? With this build, your abilities are hitting so hard. Just raw, hard damage coming out. Now, the big thing with Baba Yaga is your 2. I don't know why I clicked on that. Your 2. You can stack your 2 essentially. It's a potion. So you can hold one in your hand and you can put one in your potion slot. So if Baba Yaga is running around with a 1 that hits for 1,000, a 2 that hits for 1,000, and a second 2 that can hit for 1,000, you're running around with 3. This is late game, by the way. You're running around with 3,000 potential damage at your disposal at any moment. Plus on top of that, you have the ultimate, which has been massively buffed over time, and it hits very, very hard. It's also very good self peel to get anyone off of you because it knocks them back when they're on top of you, and you're immune and you can run around quickly. So you have survivability, you have mobility out of the 3, which is actually good counter peel as well because it does damage while running away. And then you just have a lot of burst damage that you get to play around. These abilities have really, really good stats. They have the randomness that comes from the proc on the ground on the 1, and just the little bit of randomness that comes on the 2. It's so much damage, just pure burst damage, not consistent, not crazy CDR damage, just big slamming burst damage that people cannot play around it right now. They are not used to it, and they do not play well around it at all. That is why Baba Yaga is number 2 on our list. Now, number 1 on the list, Huang, right? This god, dude. So when this god first came out, I was talking about how terrible it was. Cool kit, cool idea, little difficult to play and for new players to pick up, but just low damage overall. He has been buffed 4 times. 4 patches in a row he was buffed, and it's obvious. I don't think he's OP at all. I would not say this guy needs a nerf. He's OP, but he is so damn good. So good. I love playing him. He's one of the most fun gods to play in the game right now, in my opinion, especially out of that mid lane, which can get very boring. You're going to go Sands of Time into the Pendulum. You're going to go into the Warlock staff. You're going to go into the, where is it? I'm blind. The Staff of the Mirrodin. This is once again going to be anti-heal, or it's going to be the Soul Gem. I'm going to throw Soul Gem in here, but if you need Divine Ruin, please make Divine Ruin go into this slot. And then you're going to go to the Soul Reaver. Standard build. And then you're going to Ob Shard. Why? Because you have 40% pen. You can kill tanks. You get 30% CDR, 40% with red pots. You're capping CDR. You have very good burst damage. You have very good power. You have good passive out of the Soul Reaver, out of the Soul Gem. You get everything you need. Now, why is he so good now? Your 2 hits crazy hard and has a root built into it, right? It's much easier to hit. It's fluid, it's clean, and it builds your passive, which makes your ult easier to hit, right? Your 1 used to do, when he first came out, your 1 didn't hit for anything. It did no damage. This 1, once you have 2 items to 3 items online, chunks. It is a very annoying poke, and you can consistently throw it out without having to land anything first. You can just throw your 1 by itself or your 2 by itself, and you're good to go. Your 3. One of the safest abilities in Smite right now. It takes you up in the air. You're safe for, I think it's like 2 to 3 seconds. I think it's 3 seconds. It might be 2, but it feels like 3 seconds where you float around in the air and you can't be targeted, can't be hit. You're immune to everything. You're immune to CC, all that stuff. You're up in the air. You're free. So if you're positioning properly and you're always somewhat near a tower, you'll always be able to use that ability to get back to your tower and be safe. Then the last item, the ultimate. Good self peel. And they upped the damage. This ability did no damage for the longest time, I swear. It might have been a mix of items being buffed for mages and everything, But when this god first came out, that ult hit for nothing. It was a joke. Now it slams. It hits very, very hard. This god is a very much a late game, mid to late game god. The early game is great. Your early game can be, you can have full control. You can control wave clear. You can poke everyone out. You can still fight well. But once you hit late game, it is so noticeable. Getting hit by any of this god's abilities, you feel it. You're chunked, you're done, you're pissed, and you're screwed. Pair that with the safety of the 3, the peel of the ultimate, and just the raw damage that comes out. It's shorter cooldowns as well, especially with the build. You're kind of good to just spam and be as annoying as you want. This god is nuts. If you're a mid laner or you're playing mages, learn how to play this god because he is very good and he's really not that difficult to play. The biggest thing is a lot of people struggle with the ultimate. It's a different ultimate. It's unique from most stuff in the game right now. So learning that is important. Learn the ult, learn this god, get used to it. Those are by far your top 5 mages. I would say, like, honorable mention, Agni's pretty solid after you get to the early game, but that early game can throw way too hard for you, so I wouldn't risk it. Soul is still not bad because you have sustained damage. Poseidon is good if you're looking to rotate a lot out of the mid lane, so you're going to throw your clear out and then go look for ganks, almost play like a second mage mid jungler. That's all possible. There are a bunch of other mages that can get played that aren't complete trash, but I wouldn't be spending too much time on them. These 5 are the ones that I would put all my time into. So hopefully this helps you guys out, knowing the mages to play, knowing the builds. I'll get Smite source updated with all the builds as soon as possible. So check the website for that. For now, use the video and make sure you're liking the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the video later tomorrow, the next day, and the next day.